I've worked nights at a private research building on the edge of town. Woods on 3 sides, a 2-lane road on the 4th, and a single long driveway. On paper, it's a mixed office and lab space, but everyone called it what it was. A place where you don't want surprises after midnight. We run a tight access system. Every door is on a badge reader. When the exterior doors lock at 10 p.m., you can only get in with a card. At midnight on weekdays, the building goes into sleep mode, which makes most interior doors lock too. My job is simple. Watch the cameras, walk 2 rounds, keep a log, and don't fall asleep. The night this happened, a storm sat over us like a lid on a pot. The sky kept flickering white, but the rain came down gentle, almost like static on a TV. I was alone in the security office, a glass box by the lobby that looks out on the front doors and the elevators. The air smelled like lemon cleaner. The vending machine hummed behind me. Access granted at the reader. At 12:07 a.m., I heard a soft, fast series of beeps, 3 in a row. The chime the system plays when a door rejects a badge. I checked the monitor for the door list. South Stair 2, badge denied, 12:07:12. That door is on the far side of the building near the loading corridor. A lot of contractors use it during the day. I switched to that camera. The feed is black and white and grainy, but you can see the landing and the door. It was empty. I watched for a full minute. Nothing. I figured maybe somebody who left late tried the wrong door and had already walked away. I made a note and kept scanning. A few minutes later, the same chime. This time, 2 denials, 15 seconds apart. South Stair 2, badge denied, 12:10:22. 12:10:37, same door. I brought it up again. The landing was still empty, but something was different. The hinge side of the door was pulled tight, like there was weight against it from the inside. I leaned forward, trying to convince myself I wasn't seeing things. I picked up my radio and called out on our empty channel. South Stair 2, show yourself on camera if you're inside security. I waited. Nothing. When the next sound came, it wasn't the chime. It was the heavy thud of one of the interior fire doors closing somewhere down the hallway outside my office. It echoed up into the lobby. I stood and froze, listening to the air. After years on nights, you learn every sound a building makes. This wasn't a pipe, an AC kick, or the elevator. This was someone letting a door swing. I locked the office door out of habit, even though it's safety glass, then looked back at the screens. A motion box lit up on East Hall 3. A figure moved past the edge of frame, just a shoulder and a sleeve, heading toward the lab wing. No badge swipes appeared in the log. You can't get through that wing without one. I radioed the after-hours dispatch for the company that manages the site. The call went straight to voicemail. Storm must have been messing with the lines. I grabbed my flashlight, clipped it to my chest, and started to step out, then stopped. If someone was inside without swiping, it meant the door was propped, or they had something that wasn't in the system. Either way, the right move wasn't to chase. It was to lock the lobby and monitor. I slid the mechanical drop bolt on the lobby doors, then killed the lobby lights. The security office sat like a dim aquarium in a dark room. The glow from the monitors colored my hands blue. At 12:18, the system did something I'd never seen. A tiny green bar popped up on the screen and scrolled. Emergency lockdown engaged. Interior secure. It wasn't a fire alarm. This mode was different. Our site manager explained it once. If the network senses certain alerts, it automatically locks interior doors in a pattern so no one can move between zones. It's a safety design, but it also means if you're not in the right place, you can get trapped. You've got to be kidding me, I whispered. I tested the office door. It opened into the lobby, but when I pushed into the hallway, the tug was stiff. Maglocks were on. I could move into the lobby and the front vestibule, but not beyond. Then the access log started to fill with green. West Lab Corridor, access granted, 12:21:03. Server room, access granted, 12:21:29. Whoever was in here wasn't bumping into doors. They had a working card. I called out again on the radio, voice steady. This is security in the lobby. Identify yourself. Nothing. My chest felt like a hand was holding it. I switched to the server room camera. It shows the hallway outside and the top corner of the door. You can't see inside, privacy policy, but you can see the reader. I watched someone's hand enter the frame, glove on it, and pull a card away from the reader. A moment later, the door closed softly. The camera's infrared made the edges of the glove look white hot. I rewound the feed and watched it again. Glove, card, clean movements, like someone who had done this 100 times. I zoomed out to the map. The only way to hit those doors in that order is if you know the layout. Contractors never learn it. Daytime employees stick to their routes. Night shift learns the maze. And then the access log changed. The next green line showed a name. My name. East Hall Junction, access granted. 122314, Campbell T. My badge was hanging on a lanyard around my neck. I looked down at it. It was right there, warm against my shirt. I hadn't moved. My mouth went dry. I ran my card at the lobby interior door just to verify the system wasn't glitching. It beeped red. Denied because the lockdown was active. I held it up to the camera above my head and took a breath. My hands were shaking now. There was a knock on the glass behind me. Not a bang, just a slow, deliberate tap near the bottom corner of the security office window. I turned, the lobby was empty. My reflection looked pale, another tap. I stepped cautiously to the glass, kneeling to look along the edge where the frame meets the floor. The carpet was dark. No one was crouched there. No shadow. When I stood, the intercom on my desk crackled. Lobby, a voice said. It was my voice. Same cadence. Lobby is clear. I stared at the radio like it might bite. I thumbed the mic. Identify. Who just keyed the intercom? Static answered. Then, faint, far away in the building, a door slammed hard enough to make my office glass buzz. I waited. Minutes passed like an hour. The storm kept flashing light through the thin lobby curtains. The access log stayed busy, my name lighting up doors I couldn't see. Cold storage, copy room, South Stair 2. That last one made me go cold. South Stair 2, the door that had been denying badges earlier. My phone buzzed in my pocket. 1 bar of service, then gone. The preview showed a text from a number I didn't know. Open. That was it. Just that word. I held the phone to the window, hoping to catch another sliver of service to call 911, but it died back to no service. At 12:44, the building went completely quiet. The AC had been a constant whisper. It cut off like someone pinched the line. The monitors flickered once and held. The system shifted into backup power. In the silent air, I could hear my own breathing and the tiny tick of the wall clock. I stood there for a long time, staring at the doors, watching the east hallway camera. Finally, at 1:09, the access log stopped. No doors opened. No denials. No nothing. I waited until the storm started to weaken and the first hints of dawn gray touched the glass. At 5 a.m., the system auto-cycled out of lockdown. I called the site manager as soon as his shift started. He arrived with 2 officers and we walked the building together. Every room we checked was empty. No sign that anyone had been inside. No mess, no pry marks. The south stair door had a folded cardboard wedge lying a few steps down, like someone had used it to prop and then kicked it away. When we pulled the logs, it printed a tidy list of door events, denials, grants, my name on multiple doors in the dead of the night. The site manager looked at me and then at the paper and gave a slow exhale. I checked his card, he told the officers. It was in his possession. The system says his card did it anyway. IT got involved. They used words like clone and spoof. They told me not to worry. It could have been a database error. They changed my badge and had me write a report. Weeks went by. Nothing happened. 2 months later, on a quiet Wednesday, I came in for a swing shift and found an envelope in my mailbox at work. No return address. Inside was my old ID card, the one they had me turn in, except the photo had been scraped off clean. On the back, where the magnetic strip runs, someone had written my name in thin, careful block letters. They checked the mailroom cameras. Nothing. No one on my floor or the lobby saw who left it. The envelope itself had no prints. Probably a prank, they said. Maybe it was. All I know is when a door beeps after midnight now, I glance at the log like it's a mirror, and I pray I don't see my name where I know I shouldn't. Story 2. The quiet ward my second month on the job, I took a short-term contract at a private hospital. It was one of those clean, new places with a lot of glass and open space, but the wing I worked was old. A mental health ward and a rehab unit shared a hallway with a morgue you'd never know was there, unless you looked for the sign. Nights there have a sound. It's the soft squeak of rubber wheels on linoleum, the soft pings from patient call buttons, and that round-the-clock hum of vents. The air is always dry and cold. I worked with one nurse after midnight. She stayed behind the desk. I walked rounds. The ward is built with a sally port, 2 doors that never unlock at the same time. It keeps patients from running. At night, the exterior door stays locked and staff release you from the desk. On the night I won't forget, snow was falling, the kind that comes down fat and quiet and piles up fast. The city had sent out stay home alerts. We were inside a hollow bubble of fluorescent light, everything wrapped in that white numbness outside. At 1:15 a.m., a code gray call came over the speaker. That means combative person. The voice that called it was shaky. It sounded like it came from somewhere downstairs, not our wing. I looked at the nurse. She shook her head. "We have no one out," she said. "Everyone's asleep." A second later, the building announced, "Security lockdown. Please remain in your areas." The doors thunked as the access control engaged. The nurse looked at her screen. "We're closed," she said, more to herself than me. "Just a precaution." A light on the ward map lit up red. "Stairwell 3, door held." That means a door is open against its lock. The nurse pressed the intercom. "Stair 3, identify." Nothing came back. I walked to the sally port to check the exterior. "You want me to look?" I asked. She nodded and buzzed me through. The first door closed behind me with a soft click. The second door stayed red. She pressed the button again. It didn't change. "Hold on," she said. System froze. She clicked through menus. The door stayed red. The screen said, "Lockdown engaged." The sally port had just become exactly what it's designed to be, a trap between doors. Except this time I was in it. I put my hand against the glass. "Hey," I said and tried a slow smile to cut the tension. No big deal. I wasn't smiling on the inside. I could hear something moving down the hall on the other side. A slow slide and a bump like a chair being dragged a few inches at a time. The nurse tilted her head too. "Janitorial?" she said. "But they don't come this late." She picked up the phone to call the operator. It rang and rang, the sound got louder. Slide, bump, it was steady. Patient doors were closed. The ward was supposed to be quiet. The nurse stood, stepped to the desk edge and called, "Hello?" Her voice slid down the hall and came back empty. Then over the ceiling speaker, someone keyed the intercom. A man's breath. Not words, just that heavy, close sound of someone holding the talk button and letting you hear the inside of their mouth. It lasted 3 seconds and cut off. The nurse turned white. "That came from inside our ward," she said. "The only place that can key that without me is the medroom." I looked at the medroom door. It was behind me on my side of the glass opposite the sally port. The red light above the knob glowed steady. Locked. The little window in the door was black. "Can you open the sally port?" I asked. "It's not responding," she said quietly. "System says we're in a lockdown mode. IT is remote only because of the storm. I've called the operator." No answer. I pressed my palm against the glass again like maybe that would help. "Call the on-call supervisor," I said. "I'm okay." We both lied like that for a few minutes. Then I heard the sound I hate to think about. The slow squeak of a wheelchair somewhere behind me in the hall where the morgue corridor starts. It's a single squeak. Roll, squeak, roll, then a stop, then the squeak again. I turned and peered into the mirror of the sally port glass, trying to use my reflection to see farther down that hallway. All I could make out was the bright oblongs of the exit signs. The air felt colder now. The vents had slowed and the quiet magnified everything. The wheelchair sound stopped. A second later, the medroom intercom keyed again. One long breath, then a whisper. It wasn't words I could make out. More like the sound of someone trying to talk through a dry throat. Then it cut. "Who's in there?" I said, louder than I meant to. "Identify yourself." "This is security." Silence. The nurse was crying quietly now, hand over the mouthpiece of the phone, listening to the endless ring. Finally, the sally port light flickered from red to green and back to red in a heartbeat. I pressed on the door. It didn't move. Something scraped softly right behind it, like someone had dragged something across the floor and set it down against the door track. "I can override," the nurse said suddenly. "Emergency cut." Her hands shook as she reached for a key. "Don't," I said. "Not yet. If someone is waiting, we're opening a problem." We stood frozen like that for longer than I can account for. Eventually, the sound started again. Squeak, roll, squeak, roll, that slow metronome down the hall. It faded toward the far stair. Then a heavy door boomed closed, vibrating the glass under my hand. The nurse flinched like someone had slapped her. 10 minutes later, the building released the lockdown. The Sally Port light went green. The door buzzed. It opened like nothing had happened. The nurse wiped her face and nodded. "We should sweep," she said. Her voice was small. We walked the ward together. Every patient door was closed. Everyone was asleep. The med room was locked. I opened it with her key. We looked inside. Everything was in place. No one there. The intercom station's little light was off. On the counter was a ring of condensation, like a warm cup had sat there recently. We checked the hallway toward the morgue. The floor wax showed a faint set of wheel tracks curved like a lazy S across the light. The tracks ended at the stairwell door. The door was closed and locked. Behind it, stairs went down to the service level. We opened the door. The stairs were empty. No tracks on the steps. No dampness. Nothing. We pulled the camera from the hallway to see if something caught the movement. For a stretch, exactly from 112 to 126, the feed was there, but the angle was wrong, tilted 5 degrees left like someone had bumped the mount and then set it back almost straight. You could see the door and nothing else. After 126, the angle was normal. The day supervisor came in early because of the storm and took our statements. He looked tired and said the same thing they always say: "We'll check it out." An engineer came up later and said no alarms triggered on the med room. The intercom log showed no activity. The Sally Port recorded a brief network interruption. The wheel tracks were buffed out by noon. 2 weeks later, on my last night before the contract ended, I sat at the nurse's station at 3 a.m. The snow had melted. The building was quiet. I flipped a page in my log. The intercom clicked on by itself. A man's breath filled the room again, close and patient. It lasted 4 seconds this time. Then, clear as if he were in the next room, a whisper: "Open." The light on the med room intercom stayed dark. The nurse didn't hear it. I looked at the med room door. The red light glowed steady. I stood, I almost walked to it. Then I sat back down and wrote what I heard in the log, my handwriting tight and small. No one found anything in the morning. They never do. I left that job at the end of the month. I still check doors with my knuckles first, even if I watch the light turn green. And if I ever hear a wheelchair in an empty hall, I walk the other way. Story 3. The mailroom, my third story, happened at a corporate campus that looks like a small town. 5 buildings around a central green, a parking garage, and a ring road. I covered the night shift for the smallest building, Admin 2, connected by tunnels to mail services on one side and records on the other. After midnight, it gets quiet enough to hear your shoes on the tile. The campus had a storm protocol that used roll-down metal grills on the exterior doors. If high winds hit a certain speed, the system would trigger and the grills would drop. You could still badge your way out, but it was slower. With the wrong timing, you could be stuck in a corridor waiting for a gate to lift while wind screamed outside. On a Saturday night in late fall, the wind came early. At 11:30, the grills came down one by one like coins sliding in a slot. I was doing paperwork in the lobby of Admin 2, keeping an eye on the side cameras that show the tunnel corridors. Those tunnels collect every sound. When the wind pushes on the building, you can hear it groan through the concrete. At 12:02 a.m., the motion sensor in the mail services tunnel flashed on. The camera view showed an empty hall with gray paint and a big arrow pointing toward mail. A second later, the emergency phone in the tunnel rang. It's a box on the wall with a red button and a speaker that calls straight to my desk. I pressed the answer key. "Security," I said, static, then a voice. "I need to get out," a man said, low and hurried. The gate dropped. "Which gate?" I asked. "Can you see a sign?" The static fuzzed and cleared. "Mailroom gate. I can't get back through the other side. I'm locked in." "Stay by the phone," I said, standing up. "I'll meet you at the gate. Don't try to force it." I grabbed my jacket and flashlight and headed into the tunnel. The air felt cooler there, damp with the weather pressing against the foundation. The lights buzzed. I could hear the grill rattling with the wind on the far end. When I reached the last bend, I killed my light so I could see beyond the glare. The metal gate over the mailroom entrance was down. Beyond it, the mail sorting tables and shelves sat in rows. A pair of fluorescent tubes flickered inside, making the whole room look like it was underwater. "Hello?" I called. "You on the other side?" Something moved past the far end of an aisle. a quick shadow like a person stepping between two stacks. I saw the hint of a dark jacket. "Hey," I called, louder, stepping closer to the gate. "Are you stuck? I need your name and department." "I just need out," the voice said. It sounded farther away than the movement I'd seen. "Just lift the gate. The other door is jammed." "I can't lift it from here," I said. "I have to release it from the panel." "Stay where you are." I stepped to the wall panel and keyed my code, eyes on the space beyond the bars. The panel beeped. "Release engaged," it read. The motor hummed. The grill rose 6 inches and stopped. It wasn't a power issue. It was something on the other side. I crouched and clicked my light on, aiming it under the gap. A pair of boots stood there, toes right up to the grate. The leather was wet. The person behind the grill didn't step back when the light hit their feet. They just stood there, inches from the floor. "You need to step back," I said, steady. 6 feet, please. The gate won't open if something's blocking it." The boots didn't move. I stood, kept my light low, and glanced at the far aisle where I'd seen the shadow. It was empty. "I can call another guard to meet you at the exterior dock," I said. "We can exit there." "No," the voice said, from farther away again. "Open this one. Step back and I will." Silence. I hit the release again. The motor whined, the grill trembled, and then rose another inch like whatever pressure was on it lessened just a hair. I could see the boots more clearly now. They were work boots, unlaced, tongues out. Whoever wore them stood still as a statue. "I need to see your badge through the bars," I said, my mouth dry. "Hold it up!" The boots stepped backward soundlessly. I crouched again and saw why I hadn't heard footsteps. The laces were missing. The tongues were pulled forward to cover the toes. The bottoms were soaked. A filthy puddle spread under the grill. The boots were empty. They were sitting there by themselves, propped up to look like someone was standing in them. I lifted my light. The hollow aisle beyond the gate looked back at me. My skin prickled. The phone on the wall beside me rang again, making me jump. I hit the button. "Security." "I can't get out," the man said, closer now. "Open it." I spoke into the empty room. "I can't see you," I said. "If you need help, show yourself." The line went dead. I stood there with my light on the empty boots, mind racing through explanations that didn't make sense. Someone was trying to mess with me. Maybe a prank. Maybe a test. I stepped back from the gate and pressed the close button, then radioed dispatch. The wind roared over the building and pushed the sound through the floor into my bones. "Dispatch admin 2, I said. "I've got a person reporting being locked in the mailroom, but the interior gate is obstructed. Can you call facilities to meet me?" "Copy," dispatch said. "Facilities is off-site due to weather. We'll call the on-call." I waited, watching the aimless flicker of the lights beyond the gate. After a minute, the phone rang again. I didn't answer right away. I let it ring twice. Then I pressed the button. "Security," I said. "Why did you leave your booth?" The voice asked this time. Not a plea. Just a question. Calm. Familiar. It sounded like one of our daytime supervisors. "Who is this?" I said, a click. The line went dead. I went back to my office and pulled up every camera in the mailroom. Only one shows the area by the gate. The rest point at the loading dock and the interior wall. We don't aim cameras where people sort mail for privacy. The one camera I could use showed me the tunnel side. Just me, standing with a flashlight, then walking away. The rest of the room sat in a blind spot. The empty boots were 2 dark shapes at the bottom of the frame. When facilities finally made it in around 2:30, 2 guys met me in the tunnel. One had a key for the interior. They lifted the gate manually, grunting with the effort. As soon as it got high enough, I ducked under into the mailroom. It was cold in there. I could see my breath. The place smelled like damp cardboard. The boots were cheap knockoffs, old and stiff. They were filled with wet packing paper to make them stand. We cleared the aisles and checked the back door. It was locked, but the crash bar had fresh scuffs, like someone had been using something metal to pry at it. Not enough to get out. Enough to make the metal look chewed. "Exterior?" I asked. "Wynn's got the dock door pinned," one of the facilities guys said. "I can lift it, but it'll slam." No one got out that way. We went back through the tunnel to the records side and checked the cameras there. Nothing. The log showed no exterior doors opened. The emergency phone log showed 3 calls to my desk from the tunnel phone. No caller ID, just internal. I wrote my report. On my way out at 6 a.m., I walked past the mailroom again. The lights were off now. The gate stood open, because facilities had to adjust it after forcing it. On the sorting table closest to the gate, there was a small stack of inner office envelopes with a paperweight on top. I don't know why I noticed them. Maybe because the top envelope had my name on it. I tore it open with cold fingers. Inside was a single sheet of paper, folded twice. On it was a printout of a still frame from my security camera. Me crouched at the gate, flashlight pointed at the boots. Across the bottom, in a thin, neat hand, someone had written, "You don't have to leave your booth when the phone rings." I froze, that cold feeling sinking into my bones again. Someone had printed and addressed this between 12:02 and 2:30 a.m. in a room I couldn't open, during a building lockdown, with cameras that didn't see them. Facilities shrugged when I showed them. Someone had a key earlier, they said. Someone forgot to log it. Or it's a prank from day shift. Maybe. Or maybe someone watched the feed from somewhere and knew exactly when I left and where I'd be. After that night, if the tunnel phone rings, I answer it. But I don't go alone and I don't go blind. I still work nights. I still get that feeling in empty buildings, like the air is listening. People think locked in means you can't get out. Sometimes it means something else can't leave either. And it wants you to know it's there. Which story scared you the most? Comment below and subscribe for more true horror stories.